Okay, welcome everyone to this week's edition of APO's Happy Hour, or more accurately, the Happy Half Hour. My name is Andrew Chu, and I'll be your host this week. Before we get going with everything, I want to make sure that we know that the next APO event is upcoming this Saturday, September 26th at 7 p.m. Maestro Baez and our concertmaster and soloist, Urgent Kong, will be hosting an evening about Florence Price and bringing her music, and especially the Violin Concerto No. 2, to the stage. And also, you'll get a chance to hear that performance back in February in 2018. All right, for those who are joining us for the first time, let me kind of explain what will be going on in this happy half hour. I'll be introducing a little bit about myself, playing a little bit of music from my favorite composer, and I'll talk a little bit about the composer and also about the piece and what it means to me. And after that, I have a wonderful classic cocktail to share with you all. And I would say this is probably my all-time favorite cocktail, and it's for any and for all occasions. It's been a while since I've had it, probably due to the quarantine, but I hope you are just as excited as I am when we get to it. Now, as we continue on with this happy half hour, if you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments below. It could be questions about myself, about the music I'll be playing, or about the APO, or about the cocktail later on. So while we're waiting for everyone to join, let's talk a bit about myself. So as I said before, my name is Andrew Chu, and I'm a violinist with the APO. And I am currently the principal second violinist. And I am very proud to say that I have been playing with the APO from the very, very beginning, since I was a senior in high school. And I can't tell you how much I treasured my experiences, my time learning and growing with this group. It's amazing for me to think back to those first couple of days, or first couple of rehearsals that we had when I first played with them, to see the improvement in my own playing, as well as getting to see the ensemble growth throughout the decade. And I just think, this organization, the APO, it's just such a wonderful pillar in our community for music, as well as music education. I'm just so fortunate to be able to play with them at such a young age, and just basically being able to grow up with this nurturing environment, and just being able to participate and spread music throughout Northwest Arkansas. And I would definitely say, with my time at the U of A as well at APO, I would say that they both definitely have influenced my decision to pursue music education as a career, and to elevate music making in Northwest Arkansas, especially in the strings. So that's just a short little intro about me. If there's any more questions, or if there's anything more you want to know about me, please post them below, and I'll try to get to it by the end. Now, on to my favorite composer. This was rather hard for me to decide, so I had to set a couple more guidelines for this. So just because, it's just so difficult to pick one composer out of all the different genres we have, the different time periods, as well as the different instrumentation, whether it's a solo piece, a chamber piece, a quartet, sextet, octet, or if it's an orchestral piece. So I limited it down to my favorite composer of solo violin music. And that would have to be Mr. Johann Sebastian Bach. And this is partly due to his composition for the 6 sonatas and partitas. I've been working on these. I was first introduced when I was 17-year-old to his music. And ever since then, I've just been just so obsessed with it. It's a never-ending project to continue learning each sonata and partita. Even after I performed many of them during recitals, I still don't feel like I completely own the whole thing, just because it's timeless. One can spend their whole entire life playing these and still discover new ideas, new interpretations. And so we're never completed with it. It's kind of like just like life. It's always a journey until we get to the very end. Nowadays these sonatas and partitas are just a standard repertoire in violin music, and as well as being on every major audition requirement for orchestras, as well as colleges or whatever preparatory school you're going to. But interestingly, Bach's music wasn't really well known when he passed away. His sons actually surpassed him in terms of popularity. So after Johann Sebastian Bach passed away, much of his music was neglected and actually even forgotten for a long time. And this is one of those pieces out there. So there was the first publication was made in 1802, but they were made from copies of copies, and they weren't exactly in Bach's original handwriting. But they finally did discover the original manuscript in 1814 in St. Petersburg. And the funny thing is, Bach composed this in 1720 in Köthen, Germany. So it was over 100 years before it was rediscovered halfway across Europe. So now, after it was discovered in 1814, it was still largely ignored until the great violinist Joseph Joachim started performing these works, and then finally it started to catch on. So the movement I decided to play for you guys is going to come from his first sonata in G minor. So this sonata, it follows the form of a Baroque church sonata. It has 4 movements, and it follows this pattern from slow, fast, in terms of the organization for the tempos. So I'll be playing the first movement of the sonata, which is a slow one. It's titled Adagio in G minor. And, there's just so many different things to think about when you're playing this. It's just limitless. But I want to kind of share a little bit of what I think about when I play this. It may be a little bit out there, but this is what we think about to make it convincing. So for this piece, it's what I'm thinking about. I feel this as a journey through life, but it's not your typical journey. We are going along and looking inwardly and introspectively. There are always ups and downs in life, and we'll also get to see that in the music as well. So when you get started and hear the first chord already, it's gonna kind of feel heavy, kind of with that despair because of the key itself in minor. But I want you to I'm sure you guys already know, now without knowing what that despair, that heaviness, that sadness, what that feels like, we don't really get the true appreciation of what the happy, the sweet, and the loving care that we have. So even though there are moments of despair, we contrast that with moments of tender and sweet moments. There's going to be tension, followed by this resolution. There are moments where we are exploring, discovering, and just trying to figure out the meaning of life. It's I know it's pretty out there, but I hope you kind of hear a little bit of that when I get the chance to perform for you. Now, before I do that, just fair warning, I have a Shiba Inu, and sometimes he likes to sing along, or sometimes he'll spot a squirrel outside and he'll just go nuts. So if you do hear some barking, I can't control that. All right, let me get everything set up for you, and I'll get going. Oh, I also want to make a note before I forget, just for those who are just tuning in, that we have our next APO event this Saturday, 7 p.m., September 26th, with Maestro Bias and Urgent Kong, our concertmaster and soloist, and they'll be talking about the Florence Price Violin Concerto No. 2. So don't miss it. Let me go ahead and grab my instrument. All right, so the cocktail I have for you guys tonight is the classic old-fashioned. So what we need for this is cocktail glass, or the old-fashioned glass. We will need bitters. I'm currently using the Angostura bitters. You can use whatever bitters you have on hand, or orange bitters. There's many different ones out there. We got that. We need also sugar cubes. And there are kind of two schools of thought for the old-fashioned. There's either the original sugar cubes or the simple syrup. I prefer the sugar cubes just because that's what I have on my hand. Now, other than that, we will need a measuring cup. You can just eyeball if you want. We will need a stir. Ideally, you want a muddler. Here's my muddler for today. Just a spoon because I don't have one. And then finally, most important, it's the bourbon. Now, I would definitely recommend having a higher quality bourbon since this is mostly just bourbon itself with a little bit of extra in there. So I'm currently using the Bullet bourbon that's aged for 10 years. It doesn't have to be this fancy, but it will make it taste better. After that, we will need orange, or just the orange peel itself, and then knife. And this final thing is optional, but this actually is a very cool little bar trick you get to do for your friends and family. We need a lighter too. Ooh, and finally, can't forget the ice. Let me go grab some ice. Got my ice right here. Step 1. Get sugar cube. Step 2 is gonna be, we just want a couple dashes, about like 4 dashes, so it's just enough to get the whole entire sugar cube coated with this bitters. So hopefully I don't put too much. Here we go. Okay, that's about 4 dashes. And then this is also optional. You can add a little bit of water to dilute it a little bit, or you don't if you don't want to, but I'm going to add just a little bit in there. About the same amount. Okay, now we have to break down the sugar cube, and then use a muddler, in this case, wooden spoon. And just make sure that there aren't any big chunks remaining, or it's just going to get that sugar flakes in your mouth. Okay, that looks pretty good. Alright, before we put the ice in there, let's get the orange peel sliced first. Just careful when you're slicing. So you want to try and get at least like an inch of this peel, and we want to get a little bit of the rind in there too, and I'll show you why. Okay, here's about a pretty good piece. I'm going to make a couple extras just in case that one doesn't have enough juice in there. Alright, that should be good. So we're done with this. Alright, and put the knife down. Alright, next step. Next step is the ice. And I'm just going to use, ideally you want big chunks so there's less surface area, but that's fine right there. And then 2 ounces of bourbon. More if you want, less if you want. That looks, well, a little bit more. All right, that's good now. Okay, and then we're about done, and we just need to stir it now. And the final step is going to be with this orange slice. So here's where the lighter comes in hand. Just a neat trick to do. It's not really necessary, but it helps the oils come out the skin a little bit easier. So what you want to do is just hold it pretty close to it. Careful, don't burn your hand, and just hold it for just a couple seconds, warm it up. And since I have 2 of them, I can kind of show you the cool effect that we get to do if it works. All right, so I'm gonna move this a little closer. Hopefully it works the first time. So the rind, if I squeeze it this way, oh, hopefully you guys saw that. So that's a really nice little bar trick you get to do. I'm going to do it now in my drink. Same idea, warm it up. All right, that's good. And then hold it at a 45-degree angle and squirt the oils into your drink. Oh, that broke, but that's okay. All right, after you say that worked out perfectly, you can also wipe the sides of your glasses if you like. And then drop it in. A couple of stirs, and we are done. So let's take a quick smell and then a quick taste. Yep, smells like a old-fashioned. And then the taste test. Yeah, that's good. That is very good. But I'm gonna have to finish this later because I have 2 more students after this. So these are just very easy to drink, but you have to be very careful not to have too many, just because of the amount of sugar in there. And I can tell you from personal experience, 6 old-fashioned is not a good number to go to. The next day was not fun. All right. Well, that's the end of the cocktail. With our viewers watching, is there any questions, any comments about anything? I'm going to go ahead and relocate here. So get to sit down. Well, I guess I'll bring this over here too. So, kind of back to talking a little bit about the APO. I think, just off the top of my head, I've played every single concert since I first started, except for 2, I believe. So I almost had a perfect record, but unfortunately it didn't work out. One of my favorite experiences, playing with the APO was actually with our educational programs and the Carnegie Link Up program we have. For those who don't know what that's about, well, so the elementary students have a year to work on the curriculum developed by the Carnegie Hall. And in the very end, in the springtime, they get to come together with the Arkansas Philharmonic, and then they get to sing along, dance along, as well as playing the recorders with us too. So it's always a blast just being able to see thousands of kids in our mini performance for the Link Up, traveling around the different high schools and all the way even from Fayetteville all the way to Silent Springs. So yeah, very fascinating experience just because you see all the kids, after the hard work throughout the years, just coming together and just to enjoy themselves, and just the energy the kids output is it's amazing. It's also a little bit hard on the ears, especially when they're going nuts and everyone's screaming, as well as having thousands of recorders trying to tune together is kind of it's a sight you have to see in person. So we've been doing that for many years. Unfortunately, I don't that with this year and all the COVID-19. I hope it happens, but if it doesn't, there's always next year. All right, and just to know a little bit more, the violin. I've been playing the violin since I was 6 years old, and I am, well, let's just say I've been playing for 24 years. So it's been a while, and even now, after all these years playing, I am still finding things, little things, it's just improving constantly. Our job is never done, even after we graduate. It's always a learning process. Even though, most of my time nowadays, I spend teaching students, but you actually learn a lot by yourself by just teaching. You got to do what you preach and all that stuff. Okay, all right, so we're just wrapping up soon. Just final note, just for everyone who hasn't heard it yet, just be on the lookout for this Saturday at 7 o'clock. You don't want to miss this. This was just a great concert for everyone. It's just an amazing performance by Dr. Kong, and just being able to sit there with a premiere. It was amazing. So don't miss out this Saturday at 7. All right, well, that will be this week's edition of the APO Happy Hour. Stay tuned next week. Next Thursday, we have another guest from our APO, and you don't want to miss that. All right, everyone have a great week.